Yeah. I kind of hit y'all with a clickbait, but really I did if you stayed to the end. The topic was Mayweather versus Errol Spence Jr. But what we're going to talk about first is pound for pound. Being a pound for pound number one. How do you come to pound for pound? Is pound for pound an opinion or is it something legit factual? Before we get into that though, I want to shout out Red Glove Militant. As y'all can see behind me right now, blown up in the background. This dude put me at the front of one of his videos, edited me in without telling me, without saying he was going to do it. And after he did it, he didn't even let me know he did it. And what I want to ask from all of my subs is go over to his channel, sub to him, try to get him over 1,000. Mine and his channel are pretty much around the same size. So I'm hoping that with y'all influxing him, we can get him over 1K because I really appreciate him shouting me out and putting me in his video. If you don't know who he is, this man makes amazing edited videos. All my videos are pretty much on the fly, me in front of a camera. So his video quality is way better than mine. And y'all should check him out because he also has good content. Even though we don't always agree, everything he says is thought out, intelligent, how he comes to his conclusions. So it's really good to listen to what he has to say. Again, subs of mine. Please go to his channel, check him out. And if you like, give a thumbs up and sub to his channel because it'll help him out a lot like it helps me out when y'all do it for me. With that being said, let's get into pound for pound. What is pound for pound before we talk about Mayweather versus Spence? So pound for pound is easiest broken down like this if you don't know what it really means. Using powerlifting is the best way to give you an example of pound for pound. So let's say you have a bench pressing contest, right? And you got a man who's 200 pounds who benches 405 in that competition. But then you have a man who's 135 that benches 385 in that competition. Now, the 135 pound man is 65 pounds lighter than the guy who's 200 pounds, who's also doing 405, which is more than the 135, but it's barely over double body weight of the 200 pound man. He's still strong, double body weight. However, he's only going 5 pounds over his double body weight. When you look at a guy that's 135 doing 385 on the bench press, even though factually he's not stronger than the 200 pound man because he's lifting more by 20 pounds, that 135 pound man, pound for pound, weight for weight, is way stronger in comparison. Way stronger. He's now lifting 15 pounds over his double body weight. So you can see that he's 10 pounds stronger than the other guy if you was to do the math. So what we can conclude by that is if that 135 pound man was to be put up to 200 pounds, then he's even going to be that much stronger than the guy who's already 200 pounds. That's pretty much what a pound for pound is. So when it comes to fighting, you got to look at attributes, how fast they are, how hard they hit, what's the ring IQ, how good their chin is, their heart is, power, everything comes down into play. Now, when you take their attributes off the table, you've got to look at their resume. Who have they beat? But it's not just about who they have beat, but the competition that they've been in there with, how have they beat them? How dominant have they been fighting those opponents? So when you take a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who arguably may have had 2 close fights in his entire career, Castillo won, which I had Mayweather actually winning. I thought it was a very dirty fight by Castillo. I thought the fix was in against Mayweather because they took points away from Mayweather, even though Castillo was fouling him the whole time. If you've never seen the fight, go to my playlist, live commentary. It's on there. You can watch the fight as I actually call blow by blow punches, and you can decide for yourself who really won that fight. I had Mayweather winning it, but it's a controversy. The other fight that seems to be a controversy, which I don't see how, is when he fought Maidana in the first fight. Maidana looked great for the first 5 rounds, and then he just quit fighting. You can't win a fight in 5 rounds unless you've knocked the other guy down at least twice. So, being that Maidana never knocked Mayweather down, I had Mayweather winning that fight too. All right? So, when Mayweather fought his opponents, whether it was early in his career where he was knocking people out, being aggressive, or later in his career where he was just a defensive genius where people couldn't hit him and he was sharpshooting them, very dominant. Now you have to ask, Is Errol Spence Jr. even in the question of a current, and we're going pre-rec, pound for pound best? Is he even on the pound for pound list at this moment? I don't know if he is. I would have to check ESPN, but I would not have had Errol Spence on my top 10. When you've got guys like Lomachenko, Terrence Crawford, Usyk, when you've got guys like Canelo that have moved up in weight classes, that have captured more than one title, that have, Lomachenko's lost, but, Terrence Crawford's never lost. Usyk's never lost. Canelo has a loss, but he's done so much more since that loss. When you've got guys like this, and especially how dominant Canelo looks against his opponents more recently, you have to ask, is Errol Spence Jr. even considered up there with those guys when he hasn't done as much, when he hasn't fought as good as competition? Yes, he's fought decent welterweights. To me, his most notable win would be either Sean Porter or Kell Brook. Now, I said for a long time that I had Kell Brook as the number one welterweight. However, Kell Brook went up to fight Triple G. He was very, very muscle bound when he went up in weight to fight Triple G. You figure he was probably walking around at 170, 175 before he dropped weight to fight Triple G. He was very muscle bound, very big for that weight. He ended up losing. The very next fight, he tried to come all the way back down to welterweight. Now, I'm bringing up this point, not to throw shade or dirt on Errol Spence's win, but you have to ask these things when you're talking about an all-time great pound for pound fighting Errol Spence Jr. You've got to ask this question. When Kell Brook fought Errol Spence, for the first 5 rounds, I would say he was picking Errol Spence apart. However, what you saw was a Kell Brook, who's normally a pretty good puncher, normally has a pretty good pop to his punches, looking like he was void of power. You looked at a Kell Brook on the scales that just looked dry to the bone. He looked like a refugee. In my opinion, the Kell Brook that fought Errol Spence was weight drained. It was nowhere near the quality of Kell Brook that fought Sean Porter, who is a great fighter in himself. Sean Porter is one of them guys that I've never seen anybody ever dominate him. He's had very close losses, but in every very close loss he's ever had, it's been a very close fight. So really, truthfully, and unfortunately for Sean Porter, if you can beat him, you're probably championship quality. You're good enough to be a champion in the welterweight division if you can beat him. He is not a gatekeeper because I believe Sean Porter can beat damn near all the lower tier fighters. However, when you get to the elite, he's almost like that gatekeeper for the elite. He's not a stepping stone, but he's the guard of the moat. So I don't know how you want to rule that with him. I felt like Kell Brook did a better job before, and you just saw the difference. And then you have Errol Spence did this and that to Mayweather in sparring. And I've said several times on my channel, sparring doesn't mean shit. It is, I can't even count how many times sparring stories have never come true. You'll have one guy who says he beat the shit out of this guy. Then the guy that he supposedly beat the shit out of in sparring comes out there and just plasters him in the real fight. And that's because in sparring, you don't know the circumstances. I say this all the time. You don't know if Mayweather, let's say Errol Spence knocked Mayweather on his ass. Let's just say it happened, okay? We don't know what the circumstances leading up to that was. Did Mayweather have 6 other opponents that he sparred with in the same day? Had he been going for 4, 5, 6 hours before he got in the ring with Errol Spence? Could he have been taking it easy on Errol Spence? And Errol Spence, instead of going easy on Mayweather, was going 100%, where Mayweather was going maybe 30%, and Mayweather just got caught. You got to understand, sparring is not like fighting because things are not heightened like they are in a real fight. So it's very hard to gauge anything off of sparring alone. The only flip side I will say to that is, I know I've made the statement in the past about Dillian White, Anthony Joshua share common sparring partners, And some of their sparring partners have came out saying that Dillian White would beat AJ if they were to fight again. That to me is a little different because the sparring partner's not really gauging themselves against whatever fighter they're sparring with. They're gauging themselves against two different fighters and comparing how those two fighters did against them throughout their entire time with them. So it's a little bit different when you think about it like that. Now, has Errol Spence Jr. done enough to beat Mayweather? Because I know it said a prime Errol Spence, and I'm going to assume they're saying a prime Errol Spence is pre-rec. Yes, he's young. Yes, you would still think he's in his prime, but he might not be because I don't even think he's medically cleared yet from an article I saw. So if he's not medically cleared to do anything in the gym, then he can't fight. If he can't fight, then you could say he's out of his prime. Just like when Mike Tyson came back from prison, he was out of his prime. Just like when Ali came back after being delayed because of all the court hearings with him not wanting to go to war in Vietnam. He was really out of his prime. Just like Tyson Fury coming off a 3-year layoff. You could argue that he's out of his prime because for some reason when it comes to fighting, a 2 to 3 year gap is like a world of difference. It's like they lose a lot in that time, and it's something that they've got to keep doing. Now, unfortunately, again, for Errol Spence, because of his injury, this is straight stale time. He's straight stagnant. He can't do anything. He might be able to run. He might be able to do push-ups, but he can't really get in there and bang. He might be able to hit bags, but as far as staying sharpening his tools and staying fight ready, he really can't do that because if he gets hit wrong in the head and he's not medically cleared, the man could die or go into a coma and never wake up, so it's dangerous. So until he's cleared, I would say that no, he's no longer in his prime, and when he comes back, and I know I saw a lot of things today about him having a tune-up, which I said a long time ago that he needs a tune-up. You need to put him in there, and I didn't just say a tune-up, I said a tomato can. You need to put, and this ain't nothing to do with ducking or hiding from fighters, it is smart. When you've got a guy who got into a wreck like Errol Spence, because we've all seen the wreck by now. When you've got a guy who got into that severe of a wreck and who was in a coma, whether it was induced or not, you cannot put him in there with a killer. You need to put him in there with the easiest person he can fight and step him up to see how well his head can take the damage, because we don't want another Patrick Day. We don't want him to get hit, go down, and never get up. So it's not a tune-up. Really, how I see it is it's a measuring stick to see if he can even take damage to the head anymore. And it's smart. And anybody who's against that because he was a top-tier fighter, a welterweight, doesn't care about his health, I would say, I can't really say if they're a true fan or not, but I can say they're not a true fan of him, because anybody that's a fan of the fighter wouldn't want to see the fighter step into the furnace and get barbecued. They'd want to see if he can even handle the heat anymore. They'd want him to get in some lukewarm water and see if he can even still have the skin for it. Because if he does it, then he needs to get out before something happens and he doesn't recover. So with that being said, if we go to pre-accident Errol Spence, I do not see anything in there that tells me he could beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. I wanted to mention this. We're going to go to a sidetrack real fast. From what I could find about pound for pound, I believe it started with Sugar Ray Robinson in boxing. I believe that was the officially first pound for pound best ever proclaimed in boxing. And again, when I look at Errol Spence Jr., his fight against Kell Brook was a tight fight till he put Kell Brook away by busting up his other orbital bone. It was a tight fight. And I don't know what percentage, Kell Brook was at in that fight, but it was a close fight till Errol Spence won. When he fought Mikey Garcia, he didn't hurt Mikey Garcia once, although you could say Mikey Garcia was actually running because he kind of was. He wasn't really putting up offense. He was just staying away. Still, when you fight a guy like Mayweather who's so good off the back foot, you're going to have to be able to cut off the ring. You're going to have to be able to catch him, or you're going to end up like Pacquiao, swinging in air and just losing on the scorecards because you can't touch the man. So there's that factor too. I can't think of a time when, in Castillo, I will say he more than likely was a much better fighter than Sean Porter. And you see what Mayweather did to him in the rematch. It's not same thing with Maidana. It's not like he didn't come back and do it again against the only two people that they said was a close fight with him. And even in that close fight, I didn't feel like either one of those fights were life or death for Mayweather at any point in time. With Spence and Porter, I felt like it was a life or death fight. If Porter would have not have fallen down, then it probably would have been a draw. To me, that's what gave Spence the win, because I didn't think that Spence could beat Porter. I said I think Porter will surprise people, but I was right about how unimpressive Errol Spence would look against Porter, and he did. So when you think about Mayweather going in there with greats like Manny Pacquiao, dancing around, we don't have to go through the whole resume. We know the resume. We know the Cottos. We know the Ricky Hattons. We know the Castillos. We could go back forever through the Manfredis. We could go through just so far. He's beaten so many champions. It's crazy. We could go through his whole entire resume, and I just don't see anything there that puts Errol Spence in the same league as Mayweather if you did them both at their best. I think, I don't know if Mayweather would be able to knock Errol Spence out just because of how big Errol Spence is. You know, it's kind of like the Canelo thing. Errol Spence, I would say, is similar in size to Canelo before Canelo started going up in weight and fighting in heavier divisions. I would say naturally walking around, he looks about 160, 165-ish. And the thing, too, about it is, I don't even know if Errol Spence Jr. is the best welterweight in the division. In prime, out of prime, at his best, at his pinnacle, when he reaches his peak. I don't know if you could get this perfect Errol Spence, if he's even the best welterweight. Because, in my opinion, I think Bud Crawford beats them all. I think at welterweight, and I do find it a bad look. I never really spoke about this, and I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, and this video might be long, but I do find it a bad look that Crawford turned down Porter, and Porter now recently still wants the Crawford fight, because, like I said, I have never seen Porter dominated. I've never seen a one-sided fight against him. Every fight Porter is in, it's a dog fight. He's there to win. He's not going to lay down. He's going to be in your face. He's going to be applying pressure. Unfortunately, he's going to hit you with some headbutts, but he's going to be there to fight you. And in every fight he's lost, it's so close that if Crawford was to fight him and dominate him like he's dominated everybody thus far, then hands down, there's not even a question, there's not even a debate that Errol Spence isn't even the best welterweight in this current era. Crawford is. And I think that's the more realistic preview should be. Could a prime Floyd Mayweather beat a prime Terrence Crawford? I think that's a very good argument to be had, because the thing, in my opinion, that would make Crawford more deadly to Mayweather is the fact that Mayweather is very good at analyzing, calculating, and figuring you out. The thing with Crawford is he'll switch feet on you. He'll switch stances on you. It's not just that he'll go from traditional to southpaw. He'll go from a traditional stance to a wider stance, bringing the right leg out to try to counter you coming in. He switches up his entire style throughout the fight, and it's fluid. It's not like he comes out there and thinks about it. He might be in a round and give you 3 different looks in that same round while he's still attacking you without missing a beat. That, to me, makes a analyzer, a data compiler like Mayweather. That, to me, makes that more of a dangerous fight than Errol Spence, who we haven't really seen adapt in the ring. I didn't really see him adapt against Kell Brook. I saw him continue to get picked apart until he finally hit Kell Brook and took Kell Brook out. Against Mikey Garcia, I didn't see him figure out how to cut off the ring. I didn't see him figure out how to catch Mikey Garcia once Mikey Garcia went into flight mode. Against Sean Porter, I didn't see any changing up of the style of the fight, which is what made the fight so tight, that it was from the beginning to the end, it was the same style fight from Spence. He never adapted to Porter. He just kept doing what he was doing, and he was successful doing it, but there was no adaptation going on in that ring. I think, like I said, when you talk about a pound for pound best, one of the main attributes is going to be ring IQ. And I just think Mayweather's ring IQ is too far beyond Errol Spence that after 2, maybe 3 rounds in there, he's going to know everything Spence is going to do, and he's just going to work around him. And there's nothing Spence is going to do at this point, or at least the best we've seen him, to stop Mayweather from doing it. So I don't think Spence has a chance against Mayweather. Every fighter should believe they could beat every fighter. When Deontay Wilder came out and said he could beat Mike Tyson, yes, it's an audacious statement. However, if you believe another man can beat you, then you probably don't believe or belong in that ring. You've got to believe that you are the best when you're doing it. Because if you have self-doubt, how can you conquer other people? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Deontay Wilder went in there thinking that Tyson Fury was just going to blast him out, then that first fight, he would have never knocked Fury down in the 12th round. He kept trying because he felt like he was the better fighter. He felt like he had more power. He felt like if he could touch him, he could put him away. In the second fight, Wilder kept fighting Fury. Even after he was getting beat from post to post, he kept fighting. You need that self-belief. So I don't find anything wrong with Errol Spence saying that he could beat Mayweather. I wouldn't find anything wrong with him saying he could beat Tyson Fury if they was to get into a ring, because that's how you're supposed to think. That's a fighter mentality. You should never believe another man can beat you. But the reality is, I have not seen the skill set. I have not seen the dominance. I have not seen the speed. I have not seen the footwork. Maybe Errol Spence has more power due to size, but at the same time, Floyd Mayweather has, I've always said this. You can go back as far back as my videos go when I talk about Mayweather. Mayweather has a tremendous amount of punching power. His punching power is so underplayed. Journalists, analysts, whomever, YouTubers have always said he has pillow for hands, and it's a lie. Because you can see when he snipes fighters, he knocks the head back, he knocks them off balance, he makes them not want to press forward anymore. He even did it to Manny Pacquiao at times. He stopped Manny Pacquiao in the center of the ring, looked at Manny Pacquiao stared at him and did not come forward. Mayweather has a lot of power. It's just that he's so, especially later in his career, he's so defensive oriented that even if he can knock you out, he's not going to. He's just going to stay safe, hurt you, beat you on points. He doesn't care about the knockout. He's not going to go in there and be winning a fight for 3 rounds, have you on your ass, let you get up, go wild swinging at you, trying to finish you, then get caught and put on his ass like what happened to AJ versus Ruiz in the first fight. He's not going to do that. He's got too much ring IQ, and he doesn't really care about what people think or that the sports analysts think. He doesn't care. A win is a win to him, and he's going to win. And he's not going to jeopardize that win trying to showboat, trying to give the fans a better show. Now, some might not like it. Some might like it. I think it's smart, genius. Hit, don't get hit. And along with not getting hit is not putting yourself in a position to be hit. And that's why we didn't see all the knockouts from Mayweather like we could have seen. I mean, he's got power. He's got a tremendous amount of power. I'm telling you. Doesn't matter if you believe it or not. He's got a significant amount of power for a welterweight. Very underrated. Not one fighter ever walked through his punches. Not one. And he didn't even throw that much to keep them back. And he still kept them at bay. That says a lot. So I'm not convinced that Errol Spence has more punching power than Floyd Mayweather Jr. It's just Errol Spence is more aggressive, more come forward, more get in your face, more try to break you down with power shots, than whereas Mayweather is more, I'm going to jab you and I'm going to sharpshoot you and back off. That's the difference there. When it comes to speed, feet speed, hand speed, there's no argument to be had. Mayweather wins there. When it comes to agility, there's no argument there. Elusiveness. I think Floyd Mayweather won his entire career as the least hit boxer to box. And if I'm not mistaken, he either had the highest or the second highest land percentage while being the least hit fighter in boxing while he boxed, which is something that Errol Spence hasn't achieved on either category. So when you talk about elusiveness, which goes with speed and agility, hands down, Mayweather's got that. The only real thing that Errol Spence has is size and weight. So by size, I mean height and weight. And again, you can be heavier than somebody. That doesn't per se mean you're stronger than them. You can be taller than somebody, but that doesn't per se mean you can out-jab them when they're dancing around you, kind of like Rigondeaux did in his weight class. He was always the shortest fighter, but unlike most short fighters, Rigondeaux fought from the outside, countered coming in, and went back to the outside, which is something you don't really see shorter fighters doing because he had such tremendous speed. So I don't even know if the height advantage will work out to Errol Spence's favor. And then when it comes down to size, I've never seen Mayweather allow somebody to lay down on him. I've never seen him allow somebody to just hug on him and try to anchor him down, weigh him down. I've never seen it happen. The only flaw, the only chink I've ever seen in Mayweather's armor, if you want to call it that, is when fighters have had him against the ropes and they're throwing barrage punches, he doesn't really fight back. He stays in his defensive shell. He'll roll. He'll move with it. He'll block shots with his elbows, his forearms, and his gloves. Very good how he gets out the way, but he just really leans and moves and he looks at you and he laughs at you, but looking and laughing doesn't score points. So if you can slide a few punches through there and maybe train it hitting a bag for 3 minutes straight for 12 rounds, 36 minutes of nonstop just punching, maybe you have a chance. But I don't see Errol Spence doing that because I don't think he has a better endurance than Mayweather. That's another thing. Mayweather's got really good endurance. We talked about ring IQ. Mayweather beats him there. In every category I think of, he beats Errol Spence Jr. in every single category besides size and weight. That's it. That's it. So y'all tell me, with Mayweather having that many advantages over him, how could he beat him? How? Thank y'all for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel because it really helps me out a lot when you do it. Every sub helps, which is another reason why I brought up Red Glove. I know for a fact, since he put my video up, I've received like 8 subs. Now, that might sound like not that much, but 8 subs go a long way when you're sub 100, sub 1,000, sub 2,000, 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? Every sub helps. So that's why I'm saying again, if you're one of my subs, please go to Red Glove's channel, sub to his channel. If you like what he's talking about, give him a shot, listen to a couple of videos. And on the flip side of that, if you don't agree with his content, at the very least, understand that this dude, he's trying to build a boxing community. He's trying to bridge gaps and bring people together because he wants everybody to come up together. So that mentality alone should at least make you want to sub to him just to support what he believes in. Because not a lot of YouTubers out there like to advertise other people. Not a lot of other YouTubers out there like to bring up other channels with them to either grow at the same pace or even outpace them. The dude doesn't care. He's one of them people that just want to see other people doing good. And by that alone, he has my respect. Whether we agree on Canelo or not, or we agree here, we disagree there, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I feel like as a fan, as somebody who watches YouTube, content creators, if you want to call people that, you probably want to sub to a good person. And from what he says, he seems like a good dude. So support him off that, even if you don't agree with his views. Thank y'all again for watching. And again, let me say it. Please go ahead and hit that thumbs up and sub to the channel if you like what you just listened to. I will catch y'all in the next one. Conclusion. Mayweather beats Errol Spence. No issues.